Hi team, Miss Vaughn here to talk to you about what you're going to be doing with the sub today. So you guys are going to finish watching the Jonathan Rosa video, and then you're going to do a response to one of the questions, a question of your choice. And that's it. To clarify and build on to some things that I said yesterday, first, I hope that I ended class yesterday telling you all that I hope that you're celebrating some sort of win. And you need to think about what that small win is. So you need to also be thinking about breaking down, and I feel like I'm telling you a lot of what you need to do, and I feel like you're getting a lot of that already. But you need to think about breaking down these really big tasks into smaller tasks, and then just getting those smaller things done and committing to it. So from my conversations with some of you, I feel like sometimes you will say that you're going to do something, you start to do it, you start to think about a better way that you could be doing it. So then you stop doing it to do it in a different way. And then you think maybe that you should be doing something else besides that thing that you're doing because you have so many things that you should be doing. Don't do that. Make your list of things that you need to get done, choose one thing that you need to get done, and then do it. Okay. So if you need to read and write something, tell yourself you're gonna read it. And then when you're done, celebrate that small win of having reading it. Don't start reading it and then tell yourself, oh, I should actually be writing while I'm reading, or don't read 3 pages and then say, I should be doing this other thing with my time right now, my time and attention. Commit to the thing and then get it done. Okay, the other thing that I wanted to remind you all of is that if there is a source that you found and you don't have access to through the media center and Miss Snow can't find it for you, please reach out to me and tell me the title and the author of the thing that you need, and I can probably get it for you. So I have access to the CSU East Bay Library through my grad school program. And then I also work part-time at UC Berkeley at the Graduate School of Education. So I have access to their library too. So don't even think about like, oh, I have to write this nice professional email to Miss Vaughn. I feel like I know most of you in TOK so far. You are all very nice people, and I'm not going to assume that all of a sudden you're very rude if you just say, here's the title and the author of the book or the resource that I need. Thanks, Miss Vaughn. And you don't even have to say all of that. You could just put the title, the author, thank you, and then send that email, and I will look it up for you. Okay, raciolinguistics stuff. I know that it was confusing for a lot of you to listen to what Jonathan Rosa was saying. One, the theoretical framework stuff can kind of be confusing. And then two, he speaks very quickly, but I wanted you to hear it so that you could hear him talk about those ideas that you took notes on before you watched the video. Um, I want to revoice some of those things that you should be thinking about while you watch the video. And one is how race and language are very much tied to each other, that we often cannot think about language without acknowledging the race of the speaker. And this isn't necessarily, well, it's because like we're visual people, and then we also have all of these things that have influenced how we think, and also potential biases that we might have. So race and language are often tied together. How we see language is often influenced by how we see race. How we see race is sometimes influenced by how we see language. Okay, the other thing that I wanted to make note of is that subject-object stuff that we were talking about yesterday, and I showed you guys a little video of Rick and Morty, is that there's this like real philosophical background with it. So subjects, to refresh your memory in case you forgot, subjects think that they are these like autonomous, free people living their authentic lives, living for themselves. And because we all assume that we are subjects, we often find ourselves objectifying other people. So when we come across someone else, we think of them, or we forget like, oh, they're fully formed like subjects too. We think of them as just like objects that are for our use. And like typically when we think about objectification, I want you to broaden your definition of what it means to objectify someone. So it happens in the everyday, like when we go to the grocery store and we're in the checkout line, we think about the person who's checking us out as just like, oh, you're here to serve this one service for us. Or you might think that, I don't know. This one person is here to do this one service for us. Or like if you go out to eat, you might feel that too. Um, What else? You as a student, you might look at your teachers and think that you are here to give me information, like you are not here to be a full person. And then teachers might also do it to students. You are here to learn. This is the one thing that you are supposed to do when you are in this classroom. You are not allowed to be this fully formed human when you're in this space. So part of that subject object dynamic creates this idea of the other. So Chul Han mentioned it in the Transparency Society, and then I think Jonathan Rosa has said it in his video. And if he hasn't said it, it has been quoted in some of the texts that are on his slides that are kind of hard to read. But when we objectify other people, we are othering them because we're only seeing them for like one thing or maybe two things. We're not seeing them as like these whole complex people. They become the other. So language is one way that we other people, race is another way that we other people. A good example of this in a text that we have all read, hopefully, is Frankenstein. So when he gets rejected by that village that he goes to because he's hungry, and then he goes into the forest and he hides out in his little hovel. He starts to watch the cottagers. He knows that he cannot immediately show himself to the cottagers because they're only going to see what he looks like. And then they're going to objectify him. He is the other. And so he tells himself, okay, if I can watch how they act to then act like them, if I can learn to speak their language, if I can read the texts that are significant for them, that inform their thinking, then I can be accepted by them eventually. So he's starting to develop this double consciousness that you guys took notes on before we started watching the video. The creature has his consciousness that has been created by his own experience, but then he's also trying to anticipate or understand the consciousness of the cottagers, double consciousness. And it's all done to be accepted by the cottagers. The cottagers don't have to go through the double consciousness process of understanding the creature's point of view. And that is what Jonathan Rosa is talking about with this idea of the perceiving subject, that double consciousness is often something that is required of people who are of a lower social status, but it should also be required of the people who are in the higher social status so that we're not just constantly repeating all of these really damaging power structures that don't include certain types of people solely based on the way that they look and also the way that they speak. Okay, so the creature thinks that if he can do all these things that he will be accepted. And we know that when he finally reveals himself to the cottagers, he is not accepted. They're very scared of him. They run him off. Someone faints because they can't believe what they see. And then he gets rejected again when he tries to save the little girl out of the river. And that sets him off on his violent rampage that he goes on. So Mary Shelley trying to send this message to people all the time, like these could potentially be the consequences of othering people when you come into contact with them. And you have to remember that that was like a slight critique of the British Empire at the time too. Okay. When you're done watching the video, so the confusing stuff, hopefully the like real confusing stuff we've already gotten through it. Jonathan Rosa is going to go through some examples of how we see raciolinguistics in American society. And then when we're done watching the video, you're going to look at the handout that you guys were given yesterday. So this handout that was copied from the TOK guide, we have a list of questions on the back. You're going to look over all of these questions from perspectives and then also methods and tools. And you're going to choose only one question out of these two. So you're only going to respond to one question and you're going to respond to it with consideration of the Jonathan Rosa video. So how can it inform your thinking in order to be able to respond to one of these questions? Remember that from the previous assignment, if you were not descriptive enough, if you did not develop your explanation enough thoroughly, you probably did not do as well as you wanted to do on that assignment. So assume that I am assuming that you don't know anything. So be as clear and descriptive and explanatory as possible. Okay. I hope that you guys have some small win today. It's Friday. We got prom tomorrow. I hope to see many of you there. Be nice to yourselves, be nice to each other, be nice to the sub, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.